Hey guys, Tacoma Cyclist here, and today I'm flying solo in more ways than one. So this is my race here. The Boogeyman is not in this one because this is there was a juniors category this day. So this one is just me, 3-4s here, and it's the first race of the series in Oregon. So this is the first of the OBRA race series, which is the Oregon Bicycle Racing Association. Oregon kind of split off from USAC and is doing their own thing, so they don't have USAC sanctioned races, but they take the category upgrades, and USAC also offers them to use their categories in USAC races. So it's a little reciprocal agreement. It works out great. This one wasn't too far from us. It was about a 2.5 hour drive, so we figured we'd go down and do this race as well. It's called Dirty Circles. Did it last year. It's an absolute blast, and the weather just turned out to be awesome. Like 70 degrees, warm, awesome. So this was just an amazing day. You can see I'm here on the front. Typically I don't like to start road races right on the front or stay on the front, but the idea here is I'm working for my teammates. I'm not here to do anything for myself. So with this being a little bit of a headwind, and in this spot right here, it's actually coming in from the front left. What I'm trying to do is get my team to be behind me and slightly to the right. And I've got 4 other guys with me here from our team, so we actually had really good representation this day, which was super awesome. But I didn't want to get right in the gutter, or I wouldn't be helping them out at all, but I wanted to give them the opportunity to get in the gutter and keep others from benefiting. You'll notice my power's kind of spiking here every once in a while, and it's because we started realizing that we had a break. Right off the bat, we had a break of like 3 guys, so I decided, all right, well, if we've got a break, I'm going to go ahead and pull, see what happens here. Of course, nothing like this is going to stick, but this isn't a super long race. This is only a 36-mile race. That square loop you see there in the top left corner, that's we do that loop 6 times, and it's 6 miles. So great opportunity just to see what sticks. And yeah, we were off the front, and it turns out had a little bit of a break here, so I decided to pull hard enough to make it challenging. 26 miles an hour into the headwind. It wasn't a massive headwind, 4 or 5 miles an hour at most, but you could definitely feel it, especially through this straight and then through the next turn, since it was, like I said, coming from the front left here. When we turned left, it was really almost a direct headwind. So yeah, at this point, I'm pulling off the front, figuring, I'll let my teammate, who really is a stronger rider than I am, I'll let him sit on my wheel as much as I can, and I'll just pull until we get away. And if we can do that, awesome. Maybe we'll get this break to stick. 3 guys, 36 miles, it's totally possible. Wouldn't be the first time I've heard of somebody kind of riding off the front. So the strategy here today was different than most days. The guy that's with me here right now on my tail, which you can't see, but he is here, he and I can do kind of longer sustained efforts where we have a couple other guys in the field that are more sprint oriented. So our goal was to kind of soften up the field, and you'll notice I start to kind of slow down here in just a second. That's because we got caught, so there was no point in just driving and killing ourselves. But anyway, the point here today was to kind of mix things up. We were going to counterattack repeatedly, so I was going to go first. Teammate was going to go second, back and forth, kind of soften up the field, maybe get it to stretch out, get it to split off. The field wasn't huge. It was probably about 30 to 35 guys overall, but we were just trying to do our best to stretch it out and split it up. So it's about here. I've been caught, well, not I, but we've all been caught. It's there's only a few dudes that were on the front, and we're still sitting here. So my goal is, all right, sit up, ease off the power, and let somebody come around me. I'm not about to do all this work by myself without any assistance here. So I sit up. You can see the power kind of dips back off every once in a while. I pitch it back up again, but I'm in the low 200s now. I don't want to go so slow that I get swarmed. These are narrow roads, so once you get swarmed, it's hard to make up distance again. So trying to keep the speed high enough, but not so high that it is too stretched out and that I'm killing myself. So here's my teammate that's actually also strong and going long distances there, and he's on the front now, taking over for me. And yeah, you can see me tuck right in behind this guy. He's way bigger than I am, so I can get a pretty good draft. I'm trying to feel out. You can see me moving left and right there. I'm trying to feel out where the headwind is. And look at this. He takes like a 5-second pull, if that. and then he moves right over. And then what's this? Flicking your elbow and asking me to pull? I just pulled for 5 freaking minutes, man. And you get up here on the front, pull for 5 seconds, and flick me past? Yeah, not happening. Now the wind is coming straight on us right now, so I'm not gaining anything and I'm not losing anything by sitting right where we are. But look at the speed. We're not going fast. But I am not about to work for this guy. You know, this is ridiculous. He gets up here and flicks me over after 5 seconds. No way, dude. So I just sit here and I figure, all right, let this happen right here. Let somebody come past. Let them kind of start pulling things. But notice, again, the speed is really slow. Now, the guy that just moved past us here, he actually took 9th place in this race. Great finish. He's a really good sprinter. Nice guy, too. And, you know, I'm just sitting behind him, getting some shelter. And my thought is, right about now, I'm thinking, this would be a great opportunity for that first surge, right? Start the first attack, and then get a counterattack going. So here's the thing. I go off the front. Not a huge effort, you know, 700 watts plus. Stick around 350, 400 for a while. And it's at this point, I look back and I realize I just gapped the crap out of the field, like ridiculously. Kept the power up, and I just kept glancing over my shoulder, expecting that somebody's going to chase me. Now, I mean, of course, it's super early in the race, right? So if somebody chased me, they're either kind of dumb or we can establish an early break. One of the two, right? I'm kind of dumb for going this early, but at the same time, you know, why not? We're here to mix things up a little bit, see what we can do. So in this case, I went off the front, and really by this point in time, as I'm coming up on that first corner, I look back over my shoulder and realize I've actually established a really solid gap. I've probably got 20 seconds on the field, maybe even 30 seconds on the field at this point. So the thoughts going through my head are, who knows, 36 miles? I mean, this is an hour-and-a-half race. Maybe I can hold it off the front for an hour and a half. Not real likely, but you know, it's possible. I got 4 other guys in the field back there, and they can control the pace. And I can time trial, so why not? Let's see what we can do. So you can see I'm keeping the power on pretty hard right now. Not outrageous, because again, here's the thought that I'm having is, do I want to keep this? Do I want to try to carry this through for another hour and a half? Do I want to, and if I do, you know, I can't go burning all of my matches by going well above threshold for an hour and a half. You know, it's at this point I start trying to weigh my options and figure out, oh, and I did not take that corner well, because again, I was still trying to balance things, right? So you saw I stopped pedaling. There's no reason I needed to stop pedaling at that corner. I'm going to show you something in the next corner too, so bear with me when I get there. But it's at this point that I'm trying to figure out, what do I want to do? Do I want to try to carry this through, right? Or do I want to just fall back into the field? But my gap keeps growing, right? So I don't want to just fall back in the field. Through here, there's some weird side winds. Just FYI, this is like I'm getting hit from the right, but because of the open field there, it's actually like somehow kind of coming back over too. So you can feel the winds hitting you from the right, but every once in a while you get this weird gust from the left too. So it wasn't really all that beneficial. I was kind of fighting side by side, side to side in the wind here. Anyway, so you know, again, I'm trying to figure this out, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, if I go kind of hard for a couple laps, you know, there's 6 total laps. I figure first, second, and third lap, the chase will be on, right? If I can make it through the 3rd lap, chances are, if I've got a break still established, the field will probably ease up a bit. They'll probably back off, because really that first half of the race is always kind of hot. Second half of the race, especially, you know, 6 laps, laps 4 and 5 are going to be kind of not as hot, and I could use that opportunity maybe in lap 4 to really carry some speed, build up a little bit, and you know, make it stick. The likelihood of riding off of a 3-4 field solo and making it stick for 6 laps, really low, right? And I know this going into this. I know it's really low. But every second, I'm just looking back and I'm realizing the gap is opening. And at one point in this race, in the 2nd lap here, the gap is actually over a minute long. So, you know, really well-established gap there. Not over, sorry, just under a minute long. Just under a minute long gap. So, I got pretty far away. Now, of course, that didn't last for very long. There's only so much I can do as one person. I'll spoil it here. I was able to keep this breakaway for about 18 miles, so almost exactly half the race. As a matter of fact, after I'm finished lap 3, pulling into the pulling past the finish line at the end of lap 3, I sit up and I just, hollered at the officials that I know I'd been caught, so I was going to kind of sit up and get out of the way. So right at exactly halfway is when I got caught. So 18 miles on this breakaway. Now, what I want to show you here, we're coming up to this little corner. This is the only hill on this course, and you can't see me right now, but I'm doing air quotes. This is not a hill. It's a bump. I think out of the 36 miles, I gained 170 feet of elevation total. So this is a pan flat course. It's usually raining and cold. Not the case this time. Sunny, beautiful. A little bit of a wind. You can see the tree there, but really nothing bad. And as we approach this corner, this is something that's really important. There's this little tiny bump, and you can see it's a little bit of a tight corner. It's not super tight. It's just a regular corner, but it's less than, well, it's more than 270 degrees. So you're kind of having a sharp turn here. You can see that little tiny rise. That's the only elevation gain you make on this, is this little tiny rise. Big ring course the whole way. I think I may have shifted down 1 gear here. You see my power doesn't go up like a crazy amount through here, just enough to get me up the hill, but I'm able to pedal all the way through, and I'm keeping that power really consistent. Now later on in the race, you're going to see when I'm with the pack, absolutely not the case. Slows down to 0 watts, and then surges up to 500-600 watts just to get through that. And that just, it's awful. So when you're on a breakaway like this, it's great to be able to take the corners at whatever speed you want, without having to surge a whole lot. And yeah, I put up a little extra power, but there was a little incline there. And that's it, Now I get to benefit from a slight tailwind. It's kind of a cross tailwind again. There's no, because it's coming in at an angle on this field, there's very few sections where it's just a really genuine tailwind. So this is a long enough race that I'm not going to show you the whole thing. I'm going to snip some stuff out here. But I'm pulling up the Strava file here. You can see I averaged 240 watts for this race, which is a pretty decent clip, especially since you'll see here in a second that Strava recorded about 5 minutes of me doing 0 watts because of the fact that I was sitting at the start line and my Garmin didn't pause. But you can see the elevation here is nothing. It's just pan flat. This is not a race for me. I'm not a sprinter, so my only option is to get away on a breakaway like this and see what I can get to stick. Of course, I would never typically try to get a break to stick, at mile 1. But if you take a look at the analysis here, I think this is something interesting. Look at the first half of this race. Look at how smooth that power, the heart rate, the speed, the cadence, all of that stuff is. I mean, honestly, and there you go. You can see the long time at the beginning that just was spent doing nothing. But look at how consistent this is. And of course, you can see right where I got caught, that big surge to get back on, and then just up, down, up, down, up, down. That's what just tears at your legs. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that first one, even though it's really hard, because I was averaging about 290 watts for 45 minutes. That first one was way easier than the second half, just because there's just no surging that's involved here. So we're going to look at the same data here in Training Peaks, and you can see that, again, there's that first long time there, maybe not 5 minutes, but pretty close, where the Garmin was just recording nothing. So the average power of 240 is actually misrepresented. It was a pretty hot race, at least from my perspective, from being in that breakaway so long. You can see 3 solid laps of just drilling it out there. And again, it's pan flat. I mean, the course is pan flat, the power is pan flat, everything is just consistent. And then you get into the back into the pack, and it's just up and down, up and down. Now this race, there was some sketchy stuff in this race, and it's mostly because it was the first race of the season, a mixture of guys out there. It's the first race of the season in Oregon. In Washington, we've already had a couple of races, and those were super sketchy, but they got a little bit better over time. So for Oregon, first race, a little bit challenging, a little bit sketchy, and I'll show some examples of that. I'm not going to try to call people out, but unfortunately, I'll kind of have to do that because you're going to see who they are. But yeah, there was some serious sketchiness in the actual field, which is unfortunate because it was such a small field. So I'm going to speed the clip up here for just a second, pretty much from here until I get caught, and then I'll start talking about some of the race tactics in the field. All right, so I am now obviously speeding the clip up. I'd love to think I was going that fast. I don't think I was. So we're entering the second lap here. Like I said, I'm going to speed this up a bit just because there's no reason for me to talk over an hour, 40-hour, 30-minute race. But one of the things I wanted to point out here is if you go back to the earlier parts of the footage, you'll see how I did the breakaway. I kind of learned my lesson after the day's race prior to this. So this is a Sunday race. I also raced a road race on Saturday, and tried to animate a couple of things there too. Started about 5 breakaways, and none of those stuck. And then the 6th breakaway with the same guys, I just chose not to go with it, and that one stuck. So a couple of times I went off the front to try to close the gap, and what I realized is that nobody else was going to work. So I would try to go off the front in a way that would encourage people to come with me. I would shoot off the front right next to folks, and they would just sit there and watch me go. Sometimes it's because they had team members up in the front, sometimes it's because they just didn't want to work. But we weren't able to close it down, and they won the race by quite a wide margin. But I learned my lesson this time, so if you go back to the beginning part of the footage where I actually take off, I shoot over to the right. The guy that I overtook was on the left, right here as a matter of fact, on the yellow line. And I shot over, not all the way, but enough that if he wanted to close that gap and try to chase me down, he would have had to have moved across the road to do it, and then also close the gap to get into my draft, and it just wouldn't work. So fortunately, I am a dumb animal, and I tend to learn these things, unfortunately, the hard way. I have to fail a few times, and then I realize, oh, that's the wrong way to do it. So this time I actually did learn that. Now, again, I just want to point out that I'm going to cut here in just a minute and go to the place where I get caught. But I just want to point out that you can see, obviously, the power is much easier to maintain smoothly. And corners are easier to take, and the pedal will go through them. And it's just so much easier when you're either on the front or completely off the front. So it's a good way to take advantage of that. People tend to slow down in a road race when they approach those corners, and you just don't have to. So you can make up some speed and make a little bit more of a gap in there if you can take those corners at speed. And that definitely works in crit too. In a crit, you've got to fight for positioning in the corners. Oftentimes with brake schooling as you come into them. Not the case. If you're off the front, you can take the corners at whatever speed, whatever line you want to. So cutting back in here to where I actually got caught, I'm looking over my shoulder. I've got maybe a 5-6 second lead at this point. I have no interest in continuing to fight, knowing that I'm just not going to get away off the front again. I don't have 500-600 watt pulls in me to get away. I can continue to keep power, but I can't do it so strong as to get away. So I know I'm caught. I sit up and I get ready for the inevitable, which is for me to get completely swarmed here, and that's exactly what happens. You'll see people coming around here in just a second. Now, something I maybe wasn't prepared for, and maybe I should have been a little bit more prepared for, is that as soon as I get swarmed here, and you'll notice I can tell people are on me, so I start bringing the power up. I don't want to be swarmed at a dangerous speed here and cause problems. But look at this guy. He goes. His plan is to counterattack right off the bat, and the line goes with him. That's not like I'm going fast here. I'm only going 22, 23 miles an hour. But they decide to put the hammer down a little bit and actually go, which leaves me in a lurch because I'm kind of dead, kind of wasted here, and I've got to put out a decent amount of power to catch back up. Now, what was really awesome is 2 of my teammates actually literally pushed me back into the line. I just didn't have enough strength to do it. So even though I was putting out 300 watts to stay with this group, I was getting dropped, and the team pushed me back up. And I actually had to kind of fight for some positioning here because this guy, I guess, didn't realize that I was on his right, so he decided to try to squeeze me out. I don't know what he was thinking, but yeah, a couple of my teammates literally pushed me back up, and actually, for what it's worth, one of the other guys in the field did too, so he recognized that I did a lot of work, and it's kind of a sign of respect, which I really appreciated. He came up behind me and gave me a good shove to get me back into the field. I might have been able to, jump onto the tail end and just suffer my way back in, but it certainly helped to have that assistance from teammates and from random strangers. So from here on out, for the rest of the race, and there's the race is only halfway done. I'm not gonna show the whole thing there, of course, but from here on out, I pretty much just tailgunned the entire race. My job was done. I was there to animate stuff. I had hoped to maybe continue animating things, but that didn't happen. So my job was done. Stir stuff up. Hopefully, get the sponsor's name out there as much as possible. You can see we had really good representation in the field today, so hopefully, you know, Oregon racers will look at that and say, that's a team to be reckoned with. Watch out for those guys. And that's what we're after, is for them to recognize just how strong the team can be. So, job done, and I just kind of sit back in here. And frankly, I get to watch some of the sketchiness unfold here. Okay, let's talk a little bit about some of the sketch maneuvers here. So first of all, look at this gap right here on the right-hand side, between that guy and the shoulder. A huge frustration of mine here. He's got a huge gap on his left, he's got a huge gap on his right, but notice he's swerving left, right, left, right. Listen, if you're trying to block, awesome, block all you want. But when you just simply take up 4 bike lane, you know, four widths there because you don't know how to keep a straight line, that is sketch, okay? Sorry, I don't mean to call out this dude for that, but honestly, yeah, I kind of do. So notice he's on the white line, then he's way over to the left, then he's back on the white line. There's plenty of opportunity to move up in this field, but you can't do it because as soon as you try to move up past somebody, they're swerving left and right, left and right. You keep a straight line. It's not that hard. Keep a straight line. And if you are trying to block, that's awesome. Do your best to block, but make it really obvious that you're blocking and not just you can't keep a straight line. Now here's another great example of that. So see that space right there on the right of this guy? Same guy. So again, he just moves hard left. You know, he just moved an entire person width left. So I'm trying to decide whether I want to go up this white line or not. And in reality, if he would just stay right there on the left-hand side, totally could go up, move up a position, and take that. But because he's moving left, right, left, right, left, right, and now, look, he's got a great opportunity. He's moving left. That's cool. But I start to come over to the right, and he starts moving back to the right again. And it's not, again, he's not blocking. He's just not paying attention to where he's riding. So I squeezed past him. Happy to do that. And that's... I tried to get past this guy a lot today just because I saw him swerving left and right, left and right. But one of the other things I saw all day in this race and in the race I saw the day before. See, now this was good. This is my teammate here on the left, and he looked over to the right to make sure that he had clearance. I was trying to communicate to him that I've got his wheel and I'm with him. Here comes that same guy that moves left, right, left, right. I'm on his right-hand side. It's kind of making me a little nervous, but I didn't want to overlap wheels and close out this opening here for my teammate in case he wanted it, so I was trying to reserve that spot. But one of the things that I had seen in these early season races is people staring at their freaking computers. Listen, if you are looking at your computer, if you're concerned with your power, if you're concerned with your speed, if you're concerned with your heart rate, if you're concerned with your cadence, I don't care what you're concerned with, and you're looking down at it during a race, you are dangerous. Take the computer off, stick it in your back pocket, and ride your freaking bike. I can't tell you how many people almost caused massive wrecks, or did cause massive wrecks, because they're looking at their computer. What are you hoping to see when you're looking at your computer in a race? Are you really worried about your power? Stop that, okay? I've seen so many people, and I wish I could zoom in on some heads here, but what I would see is heads would be staring down at the computer, and lines drifting, you know, just because I'm staring at a computer, or having to jam on the brakes because all of a sudden the line changed speed in front of you and you're staring at your computer. I cannot stress this enough. If you're really not, if you're not sure if you're one of those people that's staring at your computer, you're one of those people that's staring at your computer. Take it off, put it in your back pocket. You don't need it during the race. You want to look at the data after the race? Awesome. Knock yourself out. But if you're looking at it during the race, you are causing hazardous conditions. Just move it. Take it off the bike. That's why on the track you're not even allowed to have a computer on the bike. You can put it under your seat, you can put it in your back pocket. If you're not allowed to have it on the front of the bike because they know that roadies love to look at their power, love to look at their speed. Stop it. Okay, so I was talking about this spot earlier. This is that turn that has the slight hill on it. I mentioned that, you know, when I was off the front, I was able to do this without really surging a whole lot, maybe just an extra 40 watts or so. You can see right now as I'm coming up to this turn, my power drops way off. It's just up, down, but I'm like 40 watts, 30 watts. Look at this, 15 watts. And then picking up a little bit, it starts to go uphill. You can see, you know, everybody's kind of rolling that hill up, and then look at this power just climb. It's not like I did a massive effort here, but come on, 470, 480, 500, you know, not a whole lot, but I'm also a light dude, so 520 watts for me is 8.5 watts per kilogram. So that's a lot of power to go up you know, a silly little climb like that just around the corner. If you can take a good line, if you can be on the front, it's just going to be so much better, so much smoother, and you just don't have to keep burning those matches. The best line for that turn was to just go right on the inside corner, if you could possibly do that. The way that the road was cambered, you actually didn't even have much of a little peak at the top there, but if you stayed on that outside corner, you kind of had to make up a little bit of distance, and you had to make up a little bit of elevation gain. Not much, just like 4 or 5 feet total, but it's enough. It's enough. If you do it enough times, it'll start to wear on you. Okay, this next one here really isn't about sketchiness at all. I mean, this is just racing here. So the plan is to try to move up as much as possible. And I see there's kind of an opening up here on the left-hand side of the road. There's a little bit of an opportunity to move through that opening and make up some good distance on the field. You know, I'm about halfway back in the pack, and I'd really like to not be halfway back. So I see this opportunity here, and this guy on my left in the blue, he's got a little bit of a jump on me. So okay, I get on his back wheel, and I'm excited. I see that there's 3 guys up in front of him, and the lane is ours. We can move right on up, and we can take the front of this field. And look at that, we're gaining on this field pretty well. The lane is ours. Now what happens, you'll see the 3 guys that were in front of him just kind of reintegrated in the field. What does this guy in the blue do? Absolutely nothing. He just sits there. There's nothing in front of him. There's no teammates up here. He's not trying to hold the line for somebody. He's just sitting there, decided to back off. We could have been right at the front of the pack coming into the final laps here, which would have been awesome. That's exactly where you want to be. But instead, as soon as the guys got off the front, he sits up, and now we're cruising back. Notice the right side of the lane here. It's moving, it's advancing on us again. We're losing positioning here. But now look at this. Look at how much position we're losing, because all of a sudden people in the right see, oh, there's a wide open lane right there. I'm going to take that gap. Yes, as you should. I don't know what this guy was thinking. So frustrating. We had such a great opportunity to get up to the front of the pack, and it's just done. Okay, now cutting to a couple other moments of sketch here. See this guy in the blue kit? We've got a great spot here on the right. Notice he's left, right. He's just not able to keep that straight line again. And there's plenty of room around this guy. So I moved up, trying to move up next to him, and he kind of swerved right. Now take a look here also on the left-hand side. Look up there a little ways. See that guy go over the center line just there? Yeah, that's not cool. Center line rules are in effect for a reason. You'll see that there's lots of traffic on these roads. Actually, there's not a lot of traffic on these roads, but there sometimes are cars on these roads, and if you go across that line, you can get hit and killed. So taking an advancement, moving up because you want to cross the center line, not cool. You're endangering yourself, you're endangering other cyclists. Don't do that. That's just absolutely not cool. You got a center line rule in effect. It's in there for a reason. I was happy to see that in just a moment, well, there was one of those cars, but in just a moment the official's car actually drives by here. And I don't know if the guy got DQ'd or if he got scolded, but here comes the official's car right there. He definitely got yelled at for that. Absolutely not cool. Do not cross that center line. All right, last real opportunity for sketch here. We're entering the 1K mark, and you know, especially in early season races, 1K to go, that's where stupid stuff happens. Now, actually, I'll say, in all fairness, I've been calling out some sketch here towards the end, but this group was very responsive and reactive to sketch and tended to avoid getting caught up in shenanigans, which was nice. Can't say the same for a group that I raced with the previous weekend, where it was just full of shenanigans, and the Boogeyman and I were racing together, and we decided to back off at about 2K to go, which was a good thing because there was a 40-person pileup in 200 meters to go. So here we are, 500 meters, the road is ours. You can see the guys going past the center line. That's fine. We've been told we have the entire lane. So my positioning's not bad here. In fact, I'm looking, the road is spread wide here, so there's plenty of opportunity to only be, 4 or 5 dudes back. And if you look where I'm at right now, if you count the shadows there, I'm in 6th wheel. So exactly where I want to be, although the road is a little bit spread out. So then here comes this guy. What in the heck are you doing? I've got freaking 5 wheels in front of me, and I see plenty of space to go. Plenty of opportunity to go here. And this guy rolls up in front and sticks the hand out telling us to slow down. So my initial reaction was, oh crap, there's an emergency here, right? So slow down. And then I realized, no, I absolutely had the ability to continue sprinting, and there was a line to be taken. And again, if you count the amount of shadows in front of me, there's only 4 people in front of me. Yes, we were covering the entire width of the road, but what in the world do you think you're doing by sticking your hand out in the middle of a sprint? Look, if you don't want to sprint, if you don't want to try to attack the line, if you don't want to try to go for it, that's fine. Move out of the way and don't be a danger for everybody else. But don't dare sit in the middle of the sprint when people are going. And yeah, I know it's a 30-person sprint, but the reality is, you know, the road was ours. The entire lane was ours. There was plenty of room to move around. You ride up in the middle of the pack and then stick your hand out telling people to slow down. You're causing a problem. You're the sketch, not the people around you trying to pick a line and sprint. Sure, there's always a danger in a sprint that somebody changes their line and you take a wheel out. That happens, but it's almost assured that something bad is going to happen when you roll up in the middle of a pack sprint, slow up, and stick your hand out telling other people to slow down. Don't do that. That's just a really bad idea. You don't want to be part of the sketch, you don't want to be part of the sprint, don't be there. That's fine. I have a lot of respect for somebody who decides to sit up before the sprint. I don't have a lot of respect for somebody that tries to control other people in the sprint. It's bad form. So, that's just me picking on some of the early season sketch and some of that. Overall, this is a great race. I love Dirty Circles. I love OBRA. It's great racing with those guys. It's a very laid-back vibe, but very fun. It wasn't a super fast race today, which is probably good because I wouldn't have had the juice to go much faster than 25 miles on my own, 25 miles an hour on my own. So I'm excited about how the race went. I learned a lot of things from this. I was excited that after 18 miles I was able to get back in the pack and get reintegrated. That was kind of important to me to be able to recover and know that I had that option. So there you go. That's my breakdown. A little bit of information about a breakaway. Hopefully later in the season I'll get some more of them to stick instead of getting caught. But that's the nature of racing. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Thanks for joining me today. Make sure you, if you like this video, subscribe, share it with your friends, and yeah, come back and check us out for more videos in the future. Thanks.